You're like, oh, what does HMRC want from me? Like, what's a self-assessment? I would say don't quit your day job because
otherwise you'll just end up burnt out.
I'm Anu.
Hi, I'm Susie. And this is Visionaries in Progress.
Hi, I'm Anu. I'm the founder of Kera London, which is a candle business that I started just over 5 years ago. I sell wholesale candles and I also run candle making workshops.
Hi, I'm Susie. My main hustle is working as a sustainability program manager for an investment bank. And my side hustle is called My Grandma's Kitchen, which I started with a close friend of mine called Angelaa. My Grandma's Kitchen is all about preserving and reviving family recipes. And so we want to be able to host supper clubs and cooking classes hosted by grandma in the community.
All right, should we go on to the first question, which is how would you define a side hustle and a main hustle in today's world?
So for me, I would define my main hustle as my job that gives me financial stability. I would say my side hustle is just a creative project that I just do as a passion thing. I'm not very profit driven. It's just there to enjoy and have fun. But if it starts to make a profit, then it's a win-win. How would you define it?
I definitely agree. I think the main hustle is what you would typically count as the 9-to-5 job that's going to give you the stability and the security. Whereas the side hustle, I would say, is more of like a passion project, something that you really love doing, something a bit more creative that has the potential to help you earn a bit more money on the side, which I feel like you need in this day and age, especially living in London.
Yeah, definitely.
So it might not be, like you said, profit driven, but it's there as a backup as well.
Yeah, right. So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting a side hustle but is unsure if they can balance it with their full-time job?
I would say don't quit your day job because I do believe in sometimes if you don't have that financial security, it's really hard to be creative. And setting up a side hustle and getting it to a point where it's actually making money and doing well, it takes a lot longer than you think.
Yeah.
So I think having that stable job still there will help you so much in feeling braver in trying something out, and also it can work towards funding whatever the project is or the side hustle is. I would not recommend investing all your savings from the get-go and quitting your job. As much as you might hate your job, don't just quit. Invest a little bit of money, whatever you're comfortable with. Slowly start investing your time, and over time, let's say as your business grows or your side hustle grows, then you can kind of rethink about, can I quit this job now?
Yeah.
But don't immediately be drop the mic, get out.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. Just starting small and then, like you said, just slowly investing more time into it. So I feel like you should probably maybe block out time in your calendar. It's you work your 9-to-5 day job. Perhaps in the evenings you spend an hour each week on it, and then slowly growing it.
I think it will also, just to add to what I was saying, it will also give you a bit more ability to prioritize your time. I think knowing that, okay, there's this other project that you need to work on, I think you will be like, okay, where can I fit this slot or where can I fit this work into? And then you'll kind of have to force yourself to be better with your time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in the evenings you might, nothing wrong with it, but you might sit there and watch Netflix for 5 hours after work because you're tired. But then if you really want to start a side hustle, that might be the time that you then put towards doing that.
Yeah, but also being reasonable with your time. Otherwise you'll just end up burnt out if you spend every evening on your side hustle and then you're working 9 to 5. That's a lot. Perhaps once you start to grow your side hustle, depending on kind of what your full-time job is, and if they allow flexibility, you could start then moving into a part-time role, reducing your hours and being able to split your time between your full-time hustle and side hustle a bit more.
Yeah. What have been the toughest challenges or sacrifices you've had to make taking on both your job and your side hustle? And would you do anything differently?
My biggest challenge is my time and trying to balance my personal life, my work life. So at the moment I'm finding it hard to have my 9 to 5 and then also running a side hustle, as well as trying to maintain going to the gym, reading, all my other habits. And so like we were saying earlier, just being able to prioritize my time better. I block out time in my calendar once a week. This is on My Grandma's Kitchen, and then blocking out time for myself as well. This is the day, it's a non-negotiable. I have to go to the gym. I have to meditate to be able to clear my head so I don't feel overwhelmed with everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Side hustle should be fun.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling burnt out, then there's not much point in really doing it.
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge you faced from turning your side hustle into your full-time job?
So I quit my job, my main hustle, last year because I felt like I just needed a change. And I thought, okay, let me go traveling for a little bit. Let me try and just focus on building my business and working for myself. And luckily I lived at home, so I was completely like mooching off my parents and I had savings. So that's why I was able to do that. And I know like that's a very like lucky position to be in. In terms of the main challenge, probably losing that stability, knowing that, you know, at the end of each month, you're going to have X amount in your account and having that routine as well. I think with the side business, the workshop side of my candle business, I only really started it sort of mid last year. And I always go in thinking, yeah, it's all going to work out. It's going to be sold out. You know, everyone's going to love it. And it's not often that that's the case. And it was actually such a hustle. It's called a hustle for a reason.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're going from employee to then being the accountant, the marketing person, the social, everything, and wearing so many different hats at the same time. So that was hard to manage. It's fun. It is definitely worth it for me anyway, because it's my own thing. So I'm like really passionate about it and I care about it a lot. But I think when you're running your own business, it's not, the finance stuff is not as stable. I'm also freelancing at the moment, which I'm doing stuff I've never done before, like ghostwriting and editing podcasts and all that kind of stuff. And it is all kind of like slowly starting to come together and trickle in and like build what I want to build. But it takes a lot longer than you think. So sometimes I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have left the full-time job. Maybe I should get like a part-time job. But once you leave that world, it's so hard to go back into it because you've had so much freedom working for yourself, and you're like, no one telling you what you need to be doing. No, you know, you don't have to get up and start working at 9 until 5 and all that kind of stuff. So having that routine, having that stability, and having that like regular income coming in, probably the hardest thing.
And how did you learn how to manage your finances? Because that's what I'm struggling with at the moment, like tax, I don't know anything.
That stuff stresses me out because I'm not good with numbers.
Yeah.
And you're not taught any of this stuff in school. And it's not until you start building your own business that you're like, oh my God, there's so much that you don't know. And it's really overwhelming. And luckily, I've got a great community of other founders and entrepreneurs that I lean on for support.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, I think, the money side of things, it's so hard because you're like, what does HMRC want from me? Like, what's a self-assessment? It's just, and you look at the form and it's so confusing. And you just think like the police is going to be knocking on your door. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I didn't answer this question properly. It's so stressful. But I think it's one of those things that you learn as you go along and you get more confident over time. And there's a lot of resources out there now than when I first started out. I mean, like, I asked ChatGPT like, to sort my life out constantly. And it's actually so useful. But the money thing, it's one of those things that you just have to make sure that you have good systems in place, or like think about like, okay, and be honest about like what you find stressful and get the right tools and systems in place to kind of help you manage that. How about you?
For me, I'm just learning as I go along, asking everyone around me, like any founder friends, like, how do I do this? So it's all about learning, sharing the journey. Are there any tools, resources or habits that have made managing both hustles more efficient for you?
So I would say Notion. I use Notion a lot. And notes. I know it's like a very simple thing, but I have so many thoughts in my head that I need to just chuck it all down and just like track it very easily. I don't need any like fancy systems. I just need something simple that I can see and I can like cross off as I go along. But Notion's really good because I have my candle business and I have 2 freelance clients that I work with. So it helps me kind of track what I'm doing on that, but then with my candle business, just to track, that's one thing I use to like track my expenses, what's coming in, what's going out, just tracking my leads and all that kind of stuff. So Notion's really helpful. It's probably the 2 main things I think I use.
For me as well, notes every time. Every time I get a thought or an idea, I just like have to chuck it in there. And then as well, like Google to-do list, I find super helpful. With my work, I can like put in work to do, and then there's a separate tab that I have for my grandma's kitchens, like what do I have to do for that? So it's kind of separate to each other, which I find helpful. For me, everything just lives on Google. So I used to use Notion, but then with Google, I find it a bit more efficient because I think a lot of people have Google, so you can just share documents easily. And then I do a lot of project planning on Excel.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like all my finances live on there at the
Excel,
moment.
yeah.
I feel like those are the main tools. But it's also asking like if we have any habits that have made managing both hustles more efficient for you.
Habits. In terms of habits, so one thing I do is, even though I'm not really in that full 9 to 5 job, I try to kind of work within that time frame, because sometimes when you're freelancing and my brain is more creative at night, but that's not sustainable, so I can't be up at 1-2 a.m. every morning creating. So I try to work still within that sort of like 9 to 5 time scale, so that it's just more structured. And I love sort of time blocking to see what I need to do when.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm distracted and I try to do like 500 things at once. So I do that, and I realize that I really need to be active, because every time I get overwhelmed and I'm like, oh my God, I can't handle anything. I go for a walk, or I go for a run, or I go to the gym, or I go to a class. And it's like you just have so much more clarity around what you need to do. And I'm like, oh, okay, why was I having a meltdown for no reason? I just needed to exercise or make sure that I sleep better instead of, scrolling on TikTok for 2 hours after work. So just being a bit more, I'm not perfect at it. I'm definitely trying to do better with that kind of stuff. But I think, being active really helps. And I can notice a change in my mood and my ability to work if I'm not active. So I think that's probably the habit. How about you?
For me, my habit is, as well, like just having a routine. Like I go to my job 9 to 5, I shut off, and then I kind of spend mostly my weekends on my side hustle. So I'm able to split my time evenly. And then like you were saying, sometimes I can feel so overwhelmed with just work. So I give myself grace to be like, okay, this is done for the day. I'm just going to turn my laptop off, turn my phone off, switch off for the day, and then get back to it tomorrow. Sometimes, I just feel like I have so many different things going on in my head. So I've started to implement this year. I just meditate and stretch for like 20 minutes in the morning. And that, like you were saying, it just gives me so much clarity on what is manageable for me. And another thing I discovered is downtime on the iPhone. You can set a schedule so it will switch off all your apps. So I do that from 9 till 7 a.m. And that really just helps me.
That's why you don't reply to me?
Yeah, that's why. Everyone thinks I'm ignoring them, but my phone is shut off for the day. So
I do that, actually.
Yeah, it's honestly helped me so much. It's also helped me like sleep better as well, which I used to really struggle with. Yeah. Oh, and I totally agree with you on exercising. Like I have to go to yoga at least like twice a week just to switch off and give my body some movement.
For sure. Last question. We've spoken about the challenges, but looking back on your journey, what has been the most rewarding part of juggling your main hustle and your side hustle?
So the other day, my grandma's kitchen, we actually did our first event, which was a vision board and brunch. And that day was so exhausting, but I think the most rewarding thing from that was just to see all our guests who came like come to support us and make it feel worthwhile that what we're doing is for a good cause. So I think the most rewarding thing is building a community. That's what I enjoy.
100%. I'm going to copy your answer. I think the community side is definitely the most fun and fulfilling, and I've met some great people through that. And I think it's just such a nice feeling when you know that like you've helped bring these people together and like they're like the best humans ever, and it's just it makes you feel just happier and better in the world, because I feel like there's a lot of horrible stuff going on, and having that community around you is such a big help. So I think community, and then also just challenging myself. I think through running this business and the freelance stuff, this is all very new stuff that I've never really done before, and I don't like doing public speaking, but somehow I've ended up running workshops, in front of like 15 people, and I'm like, who am I? What am I doing? I picked the wrong like job for someone who's an introvert, but it's been such a challenging but rewarding experience, because it made me step out of my comfort zone, meet all these new people that I don't think I would have otherwise, and just I've learned so many new skills which I didn't even think I'd be capable of doing. So those two are probably the biggest one.
Just the learning and growing of an entrepreneurial journey is so fulfilling. Like when you look back at 2 years ago, like for me example, me and Angelaa, we had this idea for my grandma's kitchen, and then to see it get to this point is like, oh wow, we've come so far. Like half the stuff we didn't even know about, like in terms of running a business. So I like the fact that you mentioned challenging yourself and growing. Yeah, because I'm like you, fellow introvert. Like I hate public speaking, but here we are, and
new things growing.
Yeah, and I also found it was so hard to even just talk about running a business, don't you? Like,
oh my god, I hate talking about it.
Like, oh, it's just a little side business, like not taking it seriously. But yeah, we work hard, so
we do work hard.
We should acknowledge our wins.
And you're doing something amazing, so we should kind of feel more comfortable raving about it. But maybe it's the introvert side of us, and like people ask me, like, what do you do? And I'm like, I have a candle business. And it's just like, hey, I need to say it with more like confidence. This is what I do, you know, all that kind of stuff. Agree.
Just rewarding how you have an idea and you actually bring it to reality. That is just so fulfilling and rewarding.
It's like your baby.
It's like you birthed that.
Without the pain. Actually, it's painful. It's so stressful. But I don't think I've ever felt this fulfilled in like a job, because this is something you're creating, and it might not make you like a millionaire, but it's your own thing and you're doing it, and even if it makes like a little bit of money, I think that's still an achievement.
Definitely.
Hallelujah, we did it. Okay.
Is that a film?